Okay, so now that we've finally chosen our shader, we've finally chosen our time of day, and we've chosen our field of view, we can start exporting clips from this mod and working with them in After Effects. Now, the first question that we're going to want to ask ourselves is how many clips do we need and how long should each of them be? I think a good way of maybe answering that question is to first listen to the song and listen to any distinct changes in beat that might indicate to us when it's going to be a good time to change the clip. So let's do that right now. Okay, so if you were paying close attention, there were absolutely very clear changes in beat that definitely indicated to us that it might be a good spot to change the clip. The first one that I heard was way into the beginning here, which sounded like this. So there are definitely good ways to mark them. You can mark them by just creating a marker that serves no other purpose than to let you know when to change the clip. But just so we can really visualize when we want these clips to change, I'm going to go ahead and create a blue solid, and I'm going to go ahead and create a red solid. So you don't have to do this by any means. I'm just doing this so we can have a visual aid. We can visually see when we expect the clips to change. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that red solid and just be left with the blue solid, and I'm gonna go ahead and guess where I think the beat starts based on the waveform, right? Hold Alt and left bracket to trim this blue solid. So that looks like it starts right on beat. Maybe it starts a little early, so we can potentially just trim it like that. There definitely is a change of beat right here. Perfect, so I can go ahead and just trim it. It looks like the beat ends right there, and then we can drag our red solid over here, and let's go ahead and see if that timing looks appropriate to us. Perfect, right? So that looked like it was right on point, and then over here, we kind of got two little hits, like a dum-dum, right? So maybe what we could potentially do is just have a very short clip just in between two longer clips to sort of sync up to the music and maybe change the structure a little bit. The first of the two short beats looks like it starts there. So if I trim it by pressing Alt and right bracket, pressing Control D to copy this blue shape layer and dragging it over, that looks correct, but now since it's going to be very short, we're going to have to trim it again, and we're going to have to Control D copy the red layer, and let's just bring it over here, and that looks like it's going to change to the red on time. So let's just go ahead and look at this to see if these colors change at the right time in correspondence with the music. Right, so that looked good to me. I think maybe this clip needs to be a bit longer. No, it looks like it should end right there. Yep, right, that looks like it's right on beat. Perfect, right? Right, and then this last part definitely has a lot going on, a lot of different sort of things that we could potentially do there, and a lot of room for creative interpretation. So why don't we leave that maybe for the end? We can use this basic structure to maybe set up the foundation for our edit, and then once we have a good idea of what we're doing here, we can really drive it home in this little slightly more complex section here. But already you can see that we've got a great skeleton for our edit. We already know now how many clips we want and how long we're expecting them to be. All right, so now that we have a basic outline of what we want to do, let's go ahead and use this as a guide for how we're going to think about exporting clips from this mod. Okay, so just looking at this, I see that we're going to have one sort of introductory clip in the beginning that's going to be pretty long. So I'm thinking that maybe this trick, right, I'm walking up to him and then I ender pearl behind him and he gets blown up. So maybe this first shot can sort of be like a dramatic wide shot from a distance of me just sort of approaching him and him approaching me, where the TNT is visible and sort of the viewer can get a good scope of what the surroundings are and of sort of what the situation is. Then I'm thinking for this second shot, this second long shot, we can sort of get a closer angle of me sort of looking to throw the ender pearl, right? Me sort of looking to throw the ender pearl, not quite throwing it yet, but maybe something along the lines of this, right? Just sort of this kind of angle, and maybe I'll even add like a glowing eyes effect, or maybe even put my character on fire in some way, right? That could be pretty cool. Then we've got a bit of a tricky situation with this short clip that we decided to set up for ourselves. So maybe to get a good sense of scale, we could go from this angle here, zoom in for a brief moment to my face like this during this short duration here, and then zoom back out, but over here while I'm throwing the ender pearl, right? And the purpose of this angle would be to track the motion of the ender, like the motion of the ender pearl would be emphasized here because you could see it moving across the screen very clearly. And then that'll also give us some freedom to maybe do something cool with this ender pearl, right? We can make this ender pearl glow, and we could potentially even give it a particle trail, right? That could be pretty neat. And then I think afterwards, that's going to be more or less what we have for this outline. And then once we finish what I just described, we can move on to the rest of the song. But to recap, let's just think about it again to make sure it makes sense and just sort of run through it. We're going to have a nice wide shot of the two characters approaching each other. We're going to zoom in to a closer shot, a dramatic angle of me being prepared to throw the ender pearl. Then we're going to zoom into my face, maybe have some really cool effect on my eyes for a brief moment, and then maybe have the camera turn and then zoom back out to then track the motion of the ender pearl, at which point the whole TNT hitting the player and all of that will resolve after that clip with the rest of the song. So to me, that sounds like a good plan. Let's make it, see if it works, and if something's not working, or if it's not looking as good as I'm thinking in my head, then we can change something up and maybe go with a different plan. But for now, that seems like it's going to work.